He was really fun, kind, and stable. Complimented my outfit, my makeup, my hair, everything. He gave me flowers all the time. He gave me gifts randomly all the time. He always was taking me out to dinner. Wow, he really cares about me. I've never had anything like this. At first, kind of tried to fight the idea of being taken care of, but then it was just presented in such a way like it just came from such a place of love. When I first moved in, I was told he's gonna help me get out of the debt from my divorce. That never happened. It was immediately after I moved in, the finances changed. And then it became I needed to pay more and more towards bills, and then I needed to pay more and more towards the groceries, and then it just was, everything was on my shoulders. I started to gain weight, and he would mention that regularly, like, your stomach used to be flat when I met you. It's not anymore. Little comments like that, and then they would turn into bigger comments like, I really hate your hair like that. It makes your face look even fatter. Don't like it this color. I don't like that color. I don't want bangs. It needs to stay long. And I basically had these rules. We would go out regularly with people. In the beginning, it would be like he'd shoot me a look if there was something I said or did that was embarrassing or inappropriate. It just became more and more physical out in public. If he grabbed me and shook me, that would get a reaction, but people would pretty much just look uncomfortable. I wasn't really able to see it at first. If he can quit drinking, if I can be more pleasing, if he can get a job he likes, if we can get better financially, if that person I met that was kind and nice and devoted to me is going to come back. And until then, I just need to do whatever I can to keep the peace, because it's just not worth the hell it brings on afterwards. If I was rebellious about my hair, or if I did go hang out with a friend he didn't want me to, there would be consequences for that I would have to deal with for weeks. I did experience sexual abuse. It started with just pressure to do things I really wasn't comfortable with. It turned more into like when I wasn't allowed to go out and he would go out with friends and get really drunk, he'd come back and want to do something sexual and I would have no interest in it, and he would force it. And he would say things afterwards like, well, this is exactly why your husband had an affair. So he would just do whatever he wanted to do, and then he'd make me feel guilty about the fact that I put him in a position where he had to behave that way. My absolute lowest point was probably a year and a half in, and I just had no trace of my personality left. I was weak, I was timid, I was quiet, I had no sense of myself, no sense of my own identity. Everything I did was to try to just keep the peace in the house. It wasn't even necessarily trying to please my partner, it was just to survive. I also hated myself because I was in a position that I always swore I would never be in. Anytime I saw a woman like my mother and other family members in an abusive relationship, I said to myself, that's never going to happen. Nobody's ever going to treat me that way. I would never stand for that. And I was tolerating every single thing I said I never would tolerate. I didn't feel ready to leave. I didn't feel that I could leave. I was afraid that I wouldn't have anybody to support me if they knew exactly what was happening and I wasn't going to leave. I think the best thing to do to help somebody in a situation like that is to do what my best friend did. When I pulled away, she would give me space, but always stayed kind of right around and just always made it clear that I always had a place to go. Keep the door open, keep the conversation open, make sure that person knows you're not judging them and you don't think they're stupid and they can come to you at any time. The importance of breaking the silence over domestic abuse is everything is an act. You're pretending everything's okay. So getting out of that and talking about it is so freeing and liberating for the survivor. But it also gives us a chance to educate other people. Now that I have gotten involved in Finding Our Voices, they'll say, I saw your poster, or I saw this post on Facebook that you were in, and I was in a situation like that too. Anyone who's in the situation needs to know they're not alone